What's up, everybody? I'm Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL Caleb 22, and this is Betting the NFL week number 2 of the NFL season. And as always, I'm with my co-host, Derek Wesley, also known as DWeezy. What's going on, man?
Man, ready to bounce into week two. I know my man here had a winning week. I was 2-3. He was 3-2. You know, riding right on that edge of success and losing. Was able to find a few angles to turn it into a profitable week, but looking for more as we get into week two.
Absolutely, I had a good week. If you, like I said, if you went with my picks, you made some money. So that's what we're trying to do here. We try to win you guys money, and hey, if you listen to me, you accomplish that in week one. Um, but before we get to our week, before we get to our picks of the week, and first we're going to recap what happened in week one before we do that. But before anything, we'd like to help you guys out. If you guys can help us out by subscribing to the channel, and also if you really want to help us out, you can join our Patreon, and the description is in the link down below, in the description down below. So please do help us out. Do that if you like this like this video. Um, well, yeah. First, I would say what's up to Brandon. Say what's up to my dad, and we'll say what's up to Bronny. What's going on? Thanks for tuning in, guys. Happy to have you guys here because we're about to win you guys some money. Um, like I said, before we do that, we'll kick it off with a recap of what happened in week one, because we go off of more information. That's how it make us spend. What's up, Jose? More information and seeing what happened in the previous weeks helps us out make our bets for the upcoming week. And what happened in week one was that the road teams dominated 10-6 straight up, 12-4 against the spread. Underdogs dominated 11-5 against the spread, and the under dominated with 12-4. So not a lot of points scored in week one. Wasn't a lot of great football. But what do you think of those numbers and what the trends? Do you see that continuing?
It's hard to say as we move into week two and week three, but it is definitely worth noting and earmarking for at least the next year or two. I think it's something you're going to hear more about, and it, when they made the changes to the amount of preseason games, it was something talked about initially, and I think it's something we see more of where week one and week two is potentially some of these teams' preseason games, and I think that showed in a lot of ways for some of these teams in week one, but also it shows that the books don't always know the number. And part of what they're going through the first couple of weeks is figuring out which of these teams are real, which are phonies. And so that can definitely give you a couple angles. And I think that's represented by the under in week one, the way that came in. If you're talking about bad football, you're talking about teams underperforming, and that means teams that likely have a stronger offense or maybe even a stronger defense, but not playing up to the caliber that was expected, and possibly even the caliber that we'll see from these teams later in the season. But as far as week one, I definitely think that there's something to say about the lack of preseason games and how teams handle the preseason now going into week one and week two versus things we've seen in the past where, up back when they had 4 games, there was a lot more variations in how coaches approached, that beginning of the season. And so until something changes, I think, underdogs, especially because some of these spreads, last week I said that I felt Miami was, the favorite in that game. They won outright and they were 3-point dogs on the road, which could have just been that home field advantage. But at the same time, if you feel like you got the wrong team or the right team with the wrong number, you jump on that. And so if the book is going to, have potential mistakes, I think you got to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I still think it'll take a little while to get going. I still think the under is going to favor a little bit for even going into this week. Um, and the underdogs, we'll see. There might be some overreaction to Vegas, so I'm not sure of that. I think it might even out this week on the underdogs, as well as the road teams versus home teams. I think it probably be more of an even split and not be so heavily dominated by either side going this week. Just for because what Vegas likes to do, they like to overreact. They like to adjust the line, so it meets more in the middle. And I would think it would go more that way this week, but we'll have to see. Um, we'll say what's up to the Rogue Pop. What's going on, Hendo? Thanks for tuning in, man. Um, and we'll go over the biggest upset of the week was the first game of the season, which was the Lions and the Chiefs. That was a 6.5 point favorites for the Chiefs. They lose by points to the Lions. Yeah, I mean, going to you had the Chiefs. I like the Chiefs going in. I didn't bet it. I kind of stay away from it because I was kind of worried. I was kind of worried that this might happen. And without Travis Kelsey and without Chris Jones in there, they Chiefs couldn't get done, especially with a lot of the drop balls and that happened with their offense. Didn't go their way. But what do you think about the biggest upset of the week?
I mean, I think it leans towards what we are mentioning, this being the preseason for some teams. By no means do I think anybody out there is sweating that Kansas City doesn't have a chance to make the playoffs after losing week one. Now, could Travis Kelsey have possibly gone and played in a situation where maybe this game truly meant something as far as a make or break game towards making the playoffs or seeding in the playoffs? Possibly. But to say that it's literally week one, game one, we're not going to rush you back. It more or less came down to a question: would the wide receivers in Kansas City step up for portions of the game? That seemed to be the case, and then we saw some big time drops that definitely hampered this offense. And without Kelsey being out there, it definitely showed some of the cracks that exist in the Kansas City offense and team. But I don't think it's the type of cracks that make you want to run to the window betting other teams to win the division.
All right, we'll say what's going on to Adelia. Um, well, next we'll get to the bad beat of the week, and this one really killed me because this was one of my bets. It was the Eagles Patriots game. Patriots were +4. And then they lose by 5. Just 1 point difference there. They got a late turnover. They were driving and late in the game. They had it, and they threw that ball to the sideline and just didn't go in on that fourth down. Kind of ended the game right. That was the game right there. But if they had continued, if he had gotten his feet down, I think they could have scored there because Mac Jones was getting it in the second half. Like he was bad the first half, but he was getting going there. So I think they would have scored on that drive if he got his feet in. It didn't happen for them, but that's why it was such a bad beat. It looked like it was going to happen, didn't happen, and they missed the cover just by a point, and which made me obviously go 3-2 instead of 4-1. But that killed me. But did you have any thoughts on this game?
I wasn't able to watch this game, but I did hear definitely about the end and the comeback the Patriots were able to put together. And this could be another instance where we saw a team play unlike themselves due to maybe some lack of cohesion, lack of preseason time, because uh, I don't think too many people were fading the Eagles coming into the season. And, this is another situation where even if the Eagles lost this game, I don't think you'd be running to the window to fade the Eagles, from here on out. So, yes, it might have been an ugly win, but that's also what good teams do. They rack up those ugly wins. And, sometimes the ball bounces their way, and So that's all it takes to be on the winning side of some of these games. You know, one or two lucky bounces, and you see yourselves as the victor instead of the loser.
Yeah, that one killed me. But even though that one hurt a little bit, I was still able, like you said, I stayed able to go 3-2 at a winning week. In my best pick, it was obvious, and I told everybody I was most confident in my Dallas Cowboys kicking the Giants' ass. I mean, it was just a for sure bet. I was handing you money, literally putting money in your hand by giving you this pick. That's how confident I was about the. Did I know 40-0? No, couldn't say I knew 40-0, but I did say they were going to kick their ass because what we do, the Cowboys beat the Giants. That's just going to happen. You can put your money on it for future picks. It's just going to happen because they can't beat us. I mean, Dak's like 11-0 against them since 2016. I mean, the Cowboys will beat the Giants. That's just what's going to happen. And we just massacred them on Sunday night, and it was glorious. It was awesome to as a Cowboys fan, obviously. But what do you think about Cowboys Giants on that Sunday night massacre?
Man, it was definitely it was over quick. You know, as Yogi Berra say, it got dark early out, yo. Because that the blocked field goal seemed to be just the tip of the iceberg. As the weather set in, clearly it was going to be difficult to try and move the ball through the air. The offensive line for the Giants was not able to stand up at all. Basically, I mean it seemed like Derek Jones is back there with somebody in his face after the second step. And anybody that knows, you're literally talking about a second or two after the ball being snapped, and you're on that second step. So the fact that Daniel Jones survived this game, kudos to him, because I mean, you want to talk about a rough game, and you want to try and find positives in it. I mean, not to be funny, it didn't look like the Giants quit, but just things weren't going their way. They weren't able to execute or get those lucky bounces. But I will say you did see that fight in them throughout the entire game, which is admirable, especially when you're talking about being shut not only shut out, which is pretty remarkable in the NFL at any point in time. Um, but to be down that many, it was definitely rough, and so I think that's one positive for the Giants. Definitely the Cowboys, they were able to avoid the things that have held them back in the past, and one of those being turnovers, which wasn't an issue in the game. They were able to force turnovers, and anybody that's followed football knows if you can win the turnover battle, you have a very strong likelihood of winning the game just because of what it can do at flipping field position, changing the momentum of the game. So the fact that the Cowboys were able to go out and dominate that only further played into their hand. And at the end of the day, I mean, the results are what they are, 40-0. Yeah. And,
My worst. Yeah, are you?
oh, I was just going to, drop in my best bet from this past week. I
Yeah, go
told
ahead.
people last
Go
week
ahead.
the wrong team was favored in the Miami Dolphins taking on the Chargers. Now, yes, this
Oh,
was a shootout.
absolutely.
I
I was right
expected
there
it.
with you,
I
man.
wanted it. Yeah. But
I was
plus
right there
three
with
on
you.
this Dolphins team, no reason that Dolphins team. Now, if you'd have said -3 on the Dolphins, I think you'd have had a great number. You'd have had a lot of people mad that they didn't cover. Um, but yeah, I told people that the money line was alive. I told people to take the points. Me personally, I had a
We
teaser
both
pushing
said
up
that.
the points. So yeah, see, and taking the over. The over damn near cleared by halftime. I mean, just I don't know what the books were looking at. I don't know if they were betting on Tua not to make it through a full game. I don't know, but that had to be probably the most sweat-free play I've had in a very hot minute.
Yeah. I was on there with the Dolphins with you. It's one of my picks, my most confident picks. and it turned out great. So yeah, we both scored on that one. But on the other side, yeah, talk about our worst picks. And my worst pick was just horrendous, horrendous. I don't know what that I was thinking. Picking this game, just terrible. I picked Steelers. What plus 1.5, plus 2.5, I think. Yeah, that was really stupid. That was stupid. I don't know why I did that. I just thought, Brock Purdy coming off injury, he wasn't going to come in and look that as good as he did. I thought the had a little momentum. The Steelers did coming off of last season. They were looking good towards the end of the season. I thought they would carry that into this season and look, better than they did. That didn't turn out. They didn't turn out that way. I mean, they just they just got slaughtered and it looked awful. And I mean, just from the moment, I was like, God damn it! I just threw away my parlay because I knew it wasn't going to turn around. Um, for how bad the Steelers looked, it was bad.
I could have gone with this game as my best pick, but I didn't. I told people I felt better about the Dolphins game, but yes, this was one for me that cleared by a lot. But we're talking worst picks, and unfortunately, it had to be my Panthers. That spread did not say that this was going to be a double digit loss. And of course, the spread does not always represent what will happen, but it's usually some level of estimate to what might happen. And the Panthers defense just could not stop the run game all day long. I mean, Desmond Ritter did not have to go out there and beat the Panthers because any and everybody who was running the ball for the Falcons was doing that for him. And so, if you're facing off against the Falcons and you can't stop the run game, you won't stop the Falcons. And that's clearly what happened throughout that game. There was a late penalty that it could be iffy. You could look at it a few different ways. I think it was more offensive pass interference than defensive pass interference. Regardless, they ended up putting a touchdown. But if I'm not mistaken, the Panthers never even closed the gap any further than what it was. So that touchdown was irrelevant. And yeah, I wanted to, believe some of the hype around my Panthers, especially the way they finished last season with all the turmoil that was going on in Carolina. Yes, losing a player like DJ Moore is gonna affect your offense. That's granted he didn't show up in Chicago, which could have been another bad beat, but I think people had higher hopes for this Carolina team than they did that Chicago team. And so I definitely have to look at this game as the worst of the two because for a team that's potentially supposed to be fighting for a division win, that was not the team that we saw Sunday. That if that team goes out there and plays like that consistently throughout the year, they will not be fighting for a division title, even if you only need 8 or 9 wins to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I stayed away from this game. It's not one of my picks, even though I was on your side with the Panthers. I was just worried about, Bryce Young going a rookie quarterback going into his first game. That very worries me a lot. It just even with the good rookie quarterbacks, they usually don't end winning. Even if they have good games, they usually don't win their first game. Um, and just the odds were against them, so I just stayed away from it completely. Not that I had total confidence in the Falcons doing anything, but it turns out the way it does in those type of games, and that's why this
Yep.
was
And a nice
I don't
little
know.
parlay I was able to cash off of, what you mentioned, rookie quarterbacks having a bad start. If you took all three of the top rookie quarterbacks coming in, Stroud, Young, and Richardson, and faded them in a 3-leg parlay, you was looking at plus 175. Guess what? All three teams lost. Now, unfortunately, you can't do that this coming week because we got the Colts and the Houston Texans facing off against each other. But it is potentially something to look at in the coming weeks because of those three teams, before the season started, you might have said the Panthers were the better of the trio. And after week one, I think it's fair to say that all three of these teams might be about the same level.
All right. That will wrap up week one Hopefully you bounce back going into week two, and hopefully I continue success and get another winning week under my belt. But we will get to what you all tuned in for, and that is our week two bets. And you know what? I'm going to start it off this week. You started off last week. I'm going to start off this week, and I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus 2.5 against the Chicago Bears. I didn't like the Bears going into the season, and after week one, I was right not to be in on the Bears. Because they look pretty bad against Packers. And I don't like them here as well against the Buccaneers. Even it's Baker Mayfield and the Bucks. Not that I'm too much confidence in them, but I think the Bucks do pretty well against the run. Bears are very heavy run team, so I think that be affect their ability to get a lot of offensive points there. The Bears defense did not look good at all, like, even against Love there in the Packers offense. Even with missing a receiver, they were still getting killed. Um, I think that will happen this week. I think they're going to get killed by Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, better receivers than the Packers have. So I think they'll get they get torched again. Um, so 2.5 definitely is a small enough number. Or even with Baker's struggles, I think he can win by a field goal and cover that low 2.5 spread. Especially when the Bears got beat by 18 last week. Bears 1-8 against the spread in the last 9 games, 0-10 straight up in the last 10 games, and 2-10 against the spread against an NFC team. So all that said, yeah, I like the Bucks here, and I'm just gonna fade the Bears a lot this season. But what do you think?
After what we saw in week one, it's definitely hard to try and make an argument for the Bears. Now, as you mentioned, you do have to take on the risk that comes with Baker Mayfield anytime that you want to back the Buccaneers. But with a number with as low as 2.5, talking about winning by a field goal, short of this game having a funky score, something like what we saw in that Philly New England game in week one, you're basically talking about this team winning outright. There's not too many scenarios where you're going to get a funky score where a field goal isn't going to cover this and still win outright. So even if things find their way to OT or whether it ends in regulation, you can expect almost a 3-point victory or more if you're talking about that side winning. And so I can support fading the Bears. I wouldn't, in some instances, I wouldn't tend to look at stats that maybe wrap around to the previous year. But when the team is playing in a manner that obviously reflects those trends and some of the things that we saw, it's definitely hard to fade that information. Uh, and it's definitely something to keep an eye on moving forward, because if we see the Bears go out and play like they did in week one, this could easily become a team that you want to fade week to week. And so a trend like what you mentioned is definitely worth keeping an eye on as we move out through these early weeks. Now, for my first play of the week,
Hold on 1 second. We'll answer this question. He says, "What does the term fading mean?" It just means picking against them. In
yeah,
plainest terms, you're just
yeah,
picking.
basically,
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, basically, you lack faith in this team and you're essentially saying that they're going to play poorly. I mean, that's what it boils down to, regardless of the sport, event. You can use the term in different ways, but more or less, you're expecting this team or player to underperform in some fashion.
Yeah, when you use the term fade, like a lot of times we say you can fade us or you can go with us. When we say you fade us, you just you go the opposite of what we're picking, and
Exactly.
basically,
You're fading away from what we're saying. You go in the opposite direction.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying about here. I'm going to fade the Bears a lot. I'm going to pick against them throughout the season most of the time.
Now, to move into my first pick for this coming week, I'm going right back to the well. I told people get the Dolphins, and I'm going back to the Dolphins -2 points as they take on New England, who I do think put up a better performance than some expected. But at the same time, I think people will. It's fair to say that the Eagles went out there and underperformed, especially in that second half. And that is something that we did not see out of the Miami Dolphins. Now, I do know a lot of people may want to possibly fade this because of the connection to Belichick and his history against the Dolphins, which I will say I don't know it off the top of my head, but I would not be surprised if this is a matchup that he's dominated traditionally in the past. However, we are not talking about a traditional matchup between the Dolphins and the Patriots. The Patriots roster resembles something we might have seen more on the Dolphins side of the field in the past. And the Dolphins are walking around with the better talent, better players, especially at key positions. So to be able to get this high-powered offense at -2, we saw what they did in week 1. Tyreek Hill is already a tenth of the way to a 2,000-yard receiving season. The man said he was going to get there, and he came out week 1 and put up 2 dimes on them. So you
He just
might want
might.
to watch out. Yeah, you might want to watch out. And so to be able to get this high-powered offense, Tua looked good. The receivers looked good. Waddle had a decent day, even as Tyreek Hill was going off with his major performance. I just don't see any reason not to take -2, potential win by a field goal and covered, though I do expect this team to potentially go out and put up a possible double-digit victory.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This is one of my bets as well. It's going to be my second bet. I have the Dolphins -2.5. I think they're going to blow them out. To be honest, even before Mac Jones, even with Tom Brady, the Dolphins always gave the Patriots trouble. And then now, definitely with Mac Jones, they're going to give me more trouble, especially with the Dolphins offense that they have. They look great. I mean, two look great. Tyreek look great. They can score a lot of points and very quickly. And the Patriots just don't have the firepower to keep up with that type of offense. Even even if their defense contains them a little bit, I just don't see how the Patriots can keep up. I think the Dolphins, they have some problems with the coverage, again, especially when they were going against Herbert last week. But like I said, the Patriots just don't have the weapons to exploit it like that. Um, and Miami 5-1 last 6 games against spread, 5-0 against the spread against New England, and 7-1 against the spread against an AFC opponent. New England 0-5 against the spread in the last 5 games, so pretty bad. There, I don't like those trends there, so I'm all on the Dolphins. But what's your third? We'll go with I guess, yeah. I guess we go with
Second.
your next pick, second
Yeah,
pick.
my
Yeah.
second. Oh, okay. Yeah, my second pick, going back to that, well, got to go with the 49ers. Now, I have seen this spread move a little bit. I wanted to double check where I had them at. Yes, I got this at -7. I see it already at -8. There's a possibility that we could see this even move up a point or two more by the time we roll around to game time. I believe they play Sunday. Um, but either way, we still have a few days before we get to that game, and so there's a possibility that this number moves even higher. Um, I got to ride with the 49ers going into this game because, like I said last week, they don't need Brock Purdy to go out and win the games for them. And clearly, we saw this team has figured out a way to utilize Christian McCaffrey as well as the other weapons on their team. And honestly, that's the most dangerous thing you could hope for when it comes to this roster. I mean, given what we saw, yes, the Steelers may have not been a matchup to adequately measure the 49ers offense, but I definitely think this is going to be an offensive terror as long as people stay healthy, and I mean more so outside of the quarterback position, because this is one of the few teams that could possibly lose their quarterback, find anybody to fill the spot. As long as he can hand the ball off and throw it 5-10 yards, that might be all you need your quarterback to do. And so we saw this team basically dominate in week one, a 7-point spread, on the cusp of where I might like it. Yes, the Rams played a lot better than what many people expected out of them, but I do think we see the Rams revert more back to what the expectations are for them. So, riding with the 49ers -7 on the spread.
Well, I got 8 points on what I'm looking at here, which makes me stay away from this game. I think it's a lot of points, and the reason why I'm staying away is just because I mean I definitely think the 49ers is capable of it. Of course, I do. I just what I saw from the Rams last week, it just made me question. I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting from this Rams team because it extremely surprised me of how well they played. So I just don't know what I'm getting from this team. I don't know how much. I mean, I expect them to be bad. I expect them to get their ass kicked, but I don't know. It just really threw me for a loop. It really made me question of maybe this Rams team can't compete, and that's why I'm questioning right now. I would like to see another week for them if they can put up a fight against the Niners. And I'm just too much questioning what I'm getting out of that team to make a bet on them, for or against them right now. So it just makes me stay away from that one. But I'll move on to my third bet of the week, and that is the Las Vegas Raiders plus 9.5 at the Buffalo Bills. You know, the Bills had a rough loss with to an Aaron Rodgers-less Jets team, where Josh Allen did look pretty bad, threw like 3 interceptions. Pretty much lost. Even admits that he lost the game for them. Um, I don't think he will look as horrible as he did in week one, but I can't say like he's going to just come back and look great after that performance. Raiders did get the win last week against the Broncos. And that's just what Jimmy G does. Like he doesn't look good doing it, but he gets wins. Like I said, I don't know how he gets wins, but he gets wins. And I'm not saying he's going to get the win here, but I think he can. I think the Raiders can hang around the Bills. 9.5 is a lot to cover for the Bills, especially the way they looked on Monday night. Um, so I think the Raiders can hang with them. You saw Brees Hall just run all over that Bills defense. I think Josh Jacobs can do the same. Um, and if he can, that'll keep him in the game as much as possible. So I like getting the points, the big points with the Raiders with this one. Vegas 6-3 against the spread last 9 games, 10-4 against the spread against the Bills, and Buffalo just 2-5 against the spread in the last 7 games, 1-5 in the last 6 games against the spread against an AFC opponent. So trends definitely favor the Raiders in this one. So I'm going to take them in the points.
Yeah, this game is almost a principal play for a lot of people because you have such a high spread. You start getting into that double-digit point spread, and this was something you and me talked about last year on a number of occasions. It's almost, automatic fade, just take the points, because in the NFL, there's so much parity that you could have a blowout up until the very end and a garbage time TD get you under that double-digit mark, and that's all you're looking for in this game. Me personally, I was even looking at this game for a 6-point teaser, bumping up the points on the Raiders side. You're talking about 15.5 points on a spread. Now, you start breaking that down a couple different ways. This could be another game primed for an underperformance. And so potentially looking at teasing that spread up to, I know that sounds insane, but plus 15.5, and bringing that spread. I currently see a number of 47, being able to bring that down to, or no, well, take it because you're teasing it, taking it up to 47 and being able to take the under. Or no, excuse me, that was the wrong game. you'd be pushing that up to it's at 47, so you'd be pushing it up to 53, taking the under. I mean, I do expect the Bills to win this one outright, but the Raiders are another team where they don't need their quarterback to win the game for them. If Josh Jacobs can go out there and do the things that we've seen out of him before, if Jimmy G can go out there and get the ball to Devontae Adams when need be, work that, dink and dunk, I definitely think it's possible for them to keep it close and keep it within that spread.
Yeah. All
Now,
right.
all right.
Next pick.
Now moving into my next pick, I'm going back to Thursday night football now. I've tried to ward off Thursday night football in the past. It got me with week one. I'm pretty sure I even said it on here. Watch the Chiefs lose outright just because I bet it. And sure enough, what happened? What happened? Just, all I needed was a 3-leg parlay. That's it. All I needed was three. No. But we're going back to Thursday night football. Philadelphia Eagles
Dangerous game.
-6. Yes, it is. But, that's what we sign up for. Now, in the same, part of the reason why I'm jumping on this game is because I'm not a big believer of the Vikings. And I think that showed in week one where we saw the Vikings go out and lose to a team that many thought might be one of the worst teams in the league, the Tampa Bay Bucks. And did the Bucks go out there and look great? Not necessarily, but they looked better than the Vikings because they got the W. Now, are the Bucks on the same level as the Philadelphia Eagles? Hell no. Do I think the Eagles have the better team in this matchup? Of course. I think we'll see more of a keep a foot on the gas pedal mentality, even if they get up early in this matchup because of what we saw in week one. I don't think we see as many people relax or get comfortable in an early lead. And so, yes, -6 on the spread. It's just within that touchdown. You kind of like try and keep things within that touchdown, just how close NFL scores can be sometimes. If you're going to put Kirk Cousins on the other side in this Vikings team, that I think they continue in that trend from last year where they frauds. And so taking the Eagles -6, baby.
Yeah, gotta go with you on that one. Not betting it because I don't do those Thursday night games. That's not what I do. But I probably would, if I was going to, I would take the Eagles to just kill them. Obviously, we all know Kirk Cousins in prime time. He's not good. So and he usually loses. So that I mean, I don't think really got a shot in that game. I think but I could maybe. I mean, maybe the Eagles didn't look great in week one, so maybe the Vikings got a shot to bounce back from how sloppy they looked in last week. But other than that, I just don't see them really competing in that one. All right, I'll get to my fourth bet of the week, and that is the Seahawks +5 at Detroit. And this was I was talking about earlier about overreactions of the public of the Vegas odds makers. I think this is one of them. I think a lot. Obviously, everybody watched the opening night, very high on the Lions, and then everybody saw the Seahawks look really bad against a Rams team that you didn't think was very good. I think most people thought they weren't very good, and they go and kick the Seahawks ass. So it was very surprising, two surprising outcomes in both those games. And I think this spread of 5.5 points is a little bit of an overreaction to those different games and the results that happened. And because I don't think the Seahawks are 5.5 points worse than the Detroit Lions, especially the way they looked last year. I think they can revert to back to that. I don't see them looking as bad as they did in week one. Didn't really impress me about how well their offense looked. So I'm going to take the 5.5. That's a lot of points, and I think in a matchup where I think they're more even than it looks. Um, so like I said, the Seahawks just played a bad divisional game, and that type of can happen in that type of game, and so I'm gonna take the Seahawks to cover, but will they win? Maybe not, but I think it's enough points for them to cover that spread.
Yes, I think you're correct about the overreaction. Me personally, I feel the spread should be somewhere closer to the 3.5 range. It
That's
be
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, it being pushed out to 5.5. If I was to jump on this game, I would have to lean more towards the Seahawks side. Now, I was higher on the Lions than some coming into the season. Was it a good win over the Kansas City Chiefs? Yes. Was it the type of win that makes you want to go out and back them against, anybody on the schedule? Not necessarily. So, yeah, yes, I do believe that the Seahawks went out and underperformed. Sean McVay seemed to have the Seahawks number these past few years. But this will definitely be one of those games where it'll be telling about both of these teams. Is the Lions legit? Are the Seahawks not what we expected? So I think we will definitely get a lot of answers out of this week 2 game. I just don't, I don't like that spread where it's at. So I definitely went and back the Lions -5. So that being said, if you're playing this game, you got to be jumping on Seattle, taking the points.
All right.
Now, now moving on to my next bet. You know, I was going against the Packers in week 1. Moving on to the next week, only -1 on the spread. They're taking on the Falcons. And a big reason why I'm looking at this game is because of how well the Packers were able to maintain not only the rushing attack, but Justin Fields in general. They essentially eliminated it from the game for the most part. And once they got a big lead in the game, it forced the Bears' hands as far as play calling. And even still, they weren't able to do much. I At least from the running back position, yes, there's probably a better rushing attack in Atlanta than Chicago. But I do feel that this Green Bay team is going to be able to come in and do what the Panthers couldn't do last week, and that's stop this rushing attack. And so, -1, might as well jump on the money line if you're looking at this game. But I feel the Packers win this game outright, possibly even by, maybe a touchdown or more, because if that run game isn't going for Atlanta, I would not expect Desmond Ridder to be out there winning games for anybody, especially, you know, I think Drake London and Kyle Pitts are, talented wide receiver and tight end combo. If you can't work with that to some degree, it's clear that your issues at quarterback. So if you put them in a situation where you need Desmond Ridder to beat you, I think that's how you're going to beat this Atlanta team. And I think Green Bay will be able to stifle that Russian attack enough for their offense to go out there and be able to rack up a few points and get that lead. So -1 of the money line, I'm riding with Green Bay in this game.
Yeah, this one's tough, man. There's a lot of questions because I'm not sure how. Obviously, both teams got to win. I'm not sure how much that is, how great they are coming out of those wins. Just too many question marks for me to be confident in putting some money down on either way. I mean, obviously the spread reflects that in the -1. It's kind of a go either way kind of game, and I don't really know which way to go with them.
It was a similar
I could
spread
see
in their matchup
either
with
team winning.
Chicago last week. If I'm not mistaken, it was
Yeah,
-1, -2 in that game. And we
yeah, it
saw they were
was,
clearly
and I
the
think it
better
went into
team
a
than
pick'em.
Chicago.
Yeah, yeah, but that one I thought was clear. But this Falcons, I'm not sure how good they are or bad they are. Obviously, I don't trust the quarterback, but they can maybe they haven't, but they do have a good, like you said, they do have a good amount of weapons, and they could come out and surprise the Packers. So that's why I'm just gonna stay off of it because I just really I can't pick this game. I really don't know which way to go on that one. But we'll say what's going on to Dave on. What's going on, man? Thanks for tuning in, man. Um, all right, I'll get to my final bet of the week, and that will be the Los Angeles Chargers at the Tennessee Titans +3. I'm taking the Titans with the points. Um, Obviously, I always say on most weeks that I do love a home underdog, and that will be the Titans this week. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously the Titans didn't look good. They still covered though. That's the thing. They still covered. They
Hold
lost,
up.
but they still
I'm
covered
pretty
the
sure
spread.
most teams can cover against the Saints. That's all I'm saying.
That's true. That's true. But for some reason, when even if it doesn't look good, even though how much Tannehill struggles, the Titans cover a lot of spreads when he's healthy. Um, they like I said before he got hurt, they won a lot of games. They were covering spreads, and that's why I like the Titans. I was picking the Titans a lot. Um, it may not look great, but I think they can cover the 3 points there. Obviously, the Chargers defense looked very vulnerable against the Dolphins, especially in the passing game. So even though this for the Titans
You was cutting
to
out there a
against
little
that
bit.
Chargers secondary, um,
You
that's
good
why.
now?
But oh, okay, I'm back.
Yep.
I'm back. Okay. Yeah, I think this is a perfect game for a vulnerable secondary of the Chargers that Tannehill can bounce back and look a little better. He did in week one. I don't have a lot to back up on this pick. I'm just kind of going with the gut on this one. Um, and like I said, home underdog. I usually take those, and that's what I'm going to roll with on this one.
I'm riding in the same game, but on the other side. Now, I didn't think the Chargers would have
Okay.
it in them to win week one. It's not because I felt that they would be a bad team out there. Clearly, that offense was humming strong. They were going stride for stride with Miami, and I don't think there's too many offenses out there that could even hint at the possibility of doing that. And the Chargers pretty much did that. Coming into this game, it's going to be a question of can the Titans get that running game going with Derrick Henry? Because if history's told us that's what they're going to lean on. Is there a possibility for Tannehill to potentially take advantage of the secondary for the Chargers? Yes. I mean, we clearly saw that in week one. You got Hopkins out there. You got Trayvon Burks. I mean, again, it's back to that issue. You got the talent at wide receivers. So if you got the mismatch and can't take advantage of it, seems like that issue might be at quarterback. So, even if they aren't able to capitalize on those potential mismatches that might present themselves, we could easily find the Titans leaning on that run game as they've done in the past. And with the offense, like we're going to potentially see out of the Chargers on the other side, it's going to take a stout effort out of the Titans defense, in my opinion, to keep this game remotely close, especially to keep a 3-point spread in the ballpark for me. So I'm gonna be riding with the Chargers -3 in this game.
Yeah, like I said, I always like to take one chance a week. I was taking a chance on the Patriots there when
Took a
a lot of
chance on
money was going
Pittsburgh
on the
last
Eagles.
week.
That was a huge. Well, I felt a little more confident. That one was just a total whiff on my part. I thought the bigger chance was on the Patriots because I thought all the money was going on the Eagles on that one. I feel like this is the same type of game. I think a lot of money because of how the Chargers looked. At least they're offensively, they look great, and how bad the Titans looked offensively. Um, I think that's why I think it's a perfect game for the Titans. Um, just for some weird to happen like it did in the Patriots game. I think it could be that type of game as well here. Um, because Patriots were home and they got the points, and Titans are home to get the points. So I think it's a similar situation in this game that something weird can happen and they can keep it close and cover there. But I think that's all your bets.
Yep.
All right, that's all my bets for the week. Thank you all for tuning in for this week 2 episode. Hopefully, we helped you guys out a lot last week. Hopefully, we help you guys with money this week as well. But for now, you can tell the people where they can find you, DWeezy.
Yes, folks can reach me on YouTube at Backyard Action Media, where I'll be doing Against All Odds weekly. Might be back on Sundays, depending on how my schedule shakes out. But yes, you can expect an episode a week. So make sure to hit that notification bell so you can know when I am going live for that. And then you can also reach me on Twitter at TheYardBets. So, you got any questions? Potential, want to ask about some angles, some plays? Definitely reach out, folks.
Yeah, and the questions for either one of us, just put it down in the comments. We'd love to answer your questions. Respond to them, answer on the next show. Either way, we'll get back to you. But you can find me at FLKL22 on Instagram and X/Twitter. And then you can find me also on Good Friends, Better Rivals on this channel, doing that show with Ferris. Talk Cowboys, Giants. If you saw last week, it was a great episode to have watched last Sunday night. At least for Cowboys fans, it was. But we have a lot of fun on there. We talk a lot of shit on that show. So if you like a lot of banter going back and forth, that's what we do. And while we talk about our teams as well, and then their games that happen. But yeah, that's it. That's all for now. And like I said, like I always say, every single week, let's get ready to make that money.